Hola Unconventionals, I'm Amelia.
And I'm JP.
And we're sharing our unconventional life with you from Ecuador.
We love living in Ecuador. It is a beautiful and wonderful country.
It really is, and the people are so warm and welcoming.
But no place is perfect, and if you're considering a move here, you deserve to have all the information.
Yes, so today we're going to reluctantly talk about the dark side of Ecuador.
Before we dive in and start talking about the dark side of Ecuador, take a moment and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell if you're curious about what life is really like in Ecuador. Watch out, I'm going to screw down.
Those birds are beautiful.
They are. And now for the dark side of Ecuador. The first thing we want to talk about is that there is a wealth gap here. About 26% of the population is considered to be living in poverty.
The minimum wage is $400 a month and it is increasing to $415 a month in 2021. While one person can live here on $400 a month, that is a very minimalistic lifestyle, and often there is one wage earner or income earner for an entire family.
The middle and upper middle class accounts for about 72% of the population. And before the pandemic, things were improving economically here, and there are fewer people living in poverty now than there were 10 years ago.
Yes, the middle class was growing and it has increased over the last 10 years, but due to the pandemic and the loss of jobs, the middle class has started to decline, at least in 2020.
The wealthy account for just 1.5% of the population in Ecuador. Meanwhile, the top 10% hold 50% of the country's wealth.
To put that in perspective, in the United States, the top 10% hold 68% of the country's wealth, or at least they did in the beginning of 2020, and that has increased during the pandemic. So the wealth gap in the U.S. is even greater than it is in Ecuador.
What a cutie. The next thing we want to talk about is pickpocketing and theft. Anytime you have a wealth gap, you're going to have that problem, and it is an issue here in Ecuador.
Yeah, unfortunately, we had our phone stolen on the bus going to Montañita, and if you want to check out that video, we'll put a link right up there.
There are some simple precautions that you can take to prevent yourself from being the victim of a theft. One of them is to always pay attention to your surroundings. Also, keep all of your things, your belongings on you at all times. Keep your pockets zipped up and your bags zipped. And don't put your bags in the upper head bins on the buses or under the seat. Always hold on to them.
We've heard some stories about people being approached by alleged bus workers on the bus offering to stow their backpacks, and do not fall for that because they're not actually with the bus and then they end up taking your backpack and you never see it again. We've also heard about people having their laptop or other belongings like purse or whatever stolen from underneath the seat, meaning somebody's actually crawled underneath the seat and sliced open their bag and took their belongings out, which is why it's so important to keep them close to you. Also, once the pandemic is over and we're having public events again, if you're out in a big party like a carnival, for example, leave your phones, leave your personal belongings at home.
We also wanted to mention that there has been an increase in gang violence in some of the bigger cities, in some of the neighborhoods, not citywide, as well as along the Colombian border. Most of that is related to drug trafficking. So it's just important to know where you are and where you're going and travel with someone who knows the area, just like you would in any major city in anywhere in the world.
The next thing we want to talk about is getting gringoed. This is a culture of negotiation, and a lot of people from our culture are not used to negotiating. So we tend to pay the asking price, which sometimes may be too high, and sometimes we just get outright gringoed.
Getting gringoed just means that we pay more than a local would pay for the same thing. As an example, we had a landscaper come to our house in Cuenca, and he quoted us $20 to do the landscaping, which is probably still a little bit high, but it seemed reasonable to us. Then he asked us if we wanted him to do additional things, and we said, no, we rent, we don't want to do all this extra stuff. And he did it anyway, and then insisted that we pay him $100 for all of the supplies that he went and bought and all the additional work that we didn't want done. We paid him, and we never used him again, but that didn't stop him from ringing our bell every 2 weeks for the next 2 years.
That was an extreme example. Usually gringoing is like 50 cents or $1, and it could happen in a taxi or a mercado or for some other goods that you may want to buy. So make sure you ask what the price is up front and do your negotiation before you agree to buy anything or before you get into a cab.
The next thing we want to talk about is the noise. It is so noisy here sometimes.
Yeah, it could be pretty loud at times. There could be really loud music on the beach or people having parties. Lots of fireworks, especially lately. Poor Daisy, she's been hiding under the bed off and on for the last 2 days. Our poor baby, and we found her hiding in the closet because in fireworks there were so many and it was so freaking loud. But there's also things like construction, honking horns, the roosters. I'm sure I'm forgetting things, but you name it, there's just a lot of noise.
Like the car alarm right now?
Oh, yes. Church bells, announcements over the loudspeaker. It's just a different culture, and they don't hear noise the same way we do. At least JP and I. JP, I feel like an underachiever right now, although I don't think my knee could handle that jumping. I think the days of jumping are over.
You better get your workout on.
I know.
Hey, I wanted to remind you all that I send out a newsletter every Friday with expat relevant news in English from Ecuador. So if you want to opt into that, you also get our Ecuador cost of moving and living calculator. I'll put a link in the description if you want to go sign up.
Another thing we want to talk about are the dogs and cats. There's a lot of street dogs and street cats, and a lot of dogs without leashes and collars, so you can't tell if they have homes or not. And most of them are friendly, but you never know.
Another issue with the dogs and cats is that a lot of people can't afford to properly take care of them, so some of them are underfed or they have health issues that require expensive treatment that they can't afford. And then they don't believe in neutering very much either. It's kind of a cultural thing. They don't like removing the manhood from the dogs. And then they end up with lots of puppies, and people love puppies, but then once the dog gets big, they're not such a huge fan, and so that's how we end up with a lot of big street dogs.
Now we're going to talk about trash and plastic. Where we're at, our stretch of coast here in the Alone area, it's actually really clean, and a lot of the big cities are very clean, like Manta, Cuenca, Guayaquil. They have crews that go around and sweep up all the trash, but in other areas, in some of these small rural communities, that is not the case, and there's a lot of trash, especially plastic.
We recently took a trip up to Manta, that's just north of Alone, about 2.5 hours. I'll put a link to the video there in case you missed it. But one of the things that really disappointed us on the drive up there were how much trash we saw on the side of the road, mainly in the little comunas, the little towns along the way. In between the towns, it's pretty clean. We didn't see much litter. But in the towns, it was just really a lot of it along the sides of the road, and some people's yards were completely covered in plastic trash. The government has just recently instituted some new laws to ban single-use plastic that rolls out over the next 3 years, with a lot of it coming into play in the next year. So we're hoping to see a big reduction in single-use plastic trash around Ecuador over the coming years.
The last thing that we want to talk about is that it's often dark. It can be very dark here. We've been getting a lot of questions like, does the sun ever shine? All your videos, it's cloudy, it's dark. Well, luckily it's not going to last. It's dark. We call this the dark days, and it's through June through November, mid-December. We are about to go into the sunny season.
Ecuador has a lot of microclimates, so it's not cloudy everywhere all the time. But because of the Amazon rainforest off to the east, all that moisture evaporates and gets condensed by the high mountain ranges of the Andes mountain range. And then it makes a lot of clouds in the high cities like Cuenca and Quito. And we have a mountain range to the east of us here that also does the same thing, which is why it's cloudy a lot here in Alone. But even in Salinas and Manta, it's a lot drier and a lot sunnier. So it really depends on where you are as to how dark it is.
We had a Sunday fun day here in Olone before the pandemic. It was a beautiful blue sky day, and we have incredible drone footage of the sunset. If you want to check that out, JP will put a link to that video right above my head. And I'm really excited, Unconventionals, because we are about to start the high season or the sunny season, so stay tuned for more sunny videos.
Like we said in the beginning of the video, we love living in Ecuador. The people are so amazing and we really feel welcome here.
It is a beautiful country, but every place has some dark sides. Every place in the world, not just Ecuador and not just the sky. But we do hope we haven't offended our amazing hosts.
All right, guys, I think that's all we have for this video. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, leave us a like, please.
Yes, please. We hope you have an unconventional day, and we'll see you all in our next video.
Ciao.
Ciao. How did you want me to start?
How did you want me to
We
start?
have a fun day Sunday?
Yeah, Sunday fun day.
Okay. We have a Sunday fun day video that we took before the pandemic during the high season, and it has some beautiful drone footage of the sunset. JP will put a link. JP will put a link.
Pete a link.
Let me start over.